I'm Becky and I'm a project manager on the railway, and I'm here this weekend to learn about the volunteering opportunities on the Bluebell Railway. In this episode, I'm meeting up with some of the station and signalling staff to find out a little more about what they do and why. How important would you say volunteers are to the Bluebell Railway?
Quite simple, really simple. If there weren't any volunteers, there wouldn't be a Bluebell Railway. It is as simple as that.
Without volunteers, you couldn't actually run it.
You couldn't run it, no.
Do any of your friends volunteer? Are you
Loads of my friends, most of my friends all volunteer up here. They also volunteer at other railways, but we all met here.
Volunteering here, I've been about 23 years now. Started off when I was 11 years old and never left.
If anyone was thinking of volunteering and they're thinking, I need to do some volunteering but I don't know what to do it in, what would you say to them to do if they're thinking of coming here?
It's not just, you don't just volunteer in loco. There's signals, there's station staff, there's customer services, there's working directly with the public, there's museum,
infrastructure.
Infrastructure, so, building the tracks, maintaining the carriage and wagon workshops.
It's a massive
loads
spectrum.
Of jobs.
I work as a project manager on what people at the Bluebell Railway would call the big railway. In my job, I ensure that the projects I work on run to programme and to budget. The company I work for encourages its staff to get involved in voluntary work, and many more companies are now seeing the benefits. This brings many advantages not only for the organisations that receive the voluntary help, but also the individuals undertaking it, and this is something I shall explore as part of my visit to the Bluebell Railway. I arranged to speak with my boss, Matt Bain, to discuss the benefits of encouraging his employees to undertake voluntary work.
We provide our staff with 5 charity days per year. They can use these to support any charity that they like, as long as it's registered. We see a lot of benefits, not only to the charities that we support, but also to the individual themselves.
So Stephen, how long have you been volunteering on the Bluebell Railway?
30 years now.
So have you always been in the ticket office, or have you tried out a few other bits?
No, I started working on the Pullmans.
Yeah.
And then went into the signal box, became a guard, and then booking clerk.
So you've done how long have you been a booking clerk for now?
Probably about 28 years.
So I've worked on the Bluebell now for 28 years. So I'm a volunteer, that's where I started back 28 years ago. And then for the past 5 years, I also worked for our catering department as a supplementary job to our main job, but also keeping the voluntary side as well.
I've been a signalman at the Bluebell Railway in total for about 10 years now. However, I do have a history of signalling on heritage railways because I used to volunteer on another heritage railway in the northeast when I lived up there for 16 years, and another heritage railway for 3 years when I lived in the east of England.
Have you always been volunteering then?
Yes.
All the time?
Yes,
So you have
I've never worked as a professional railwayman.
You haven't?
No.
That's surprising, considering how often you've done it.
I'm a lifelong railway enthusiast, and I'm a lifelong railway signalling enthusiast.
So what was your job, your real job?
I'm a professional mechanical engineer.
So you say you've been volunteering now for 28 years.
Yeah.
What keeps you coming back?
I enjoy the work. It's great fun. Meet people all the time.
Yeah.
And staff as well as customers.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that one of the key things that they enjoy about working here is the sort of social element of it.
Yeah, it is.
If someone was thinking of volunteering for the Bluebell Railway, what would you say to them?
Oh, come and see the taster days, go and see all the departments, see where you want to work. You'll fit in somewhere.
Yeah.
You'll have a really good time as well.
When I was working, obviously finding the time was more challenging.
Yeah.
Now I'm retired happily.
Oh, okay.
I have much more free time and I devote quite a lot of my free time to volunteering at the Bluebell Railway. In the normal running season, when we operate trains every day of the week, I volunteer as a signalman every Thursday. So you'll find me in one of the 3 signal boxes at the Bluebell every Thursday from Easter to October. And then I normally find myself on the weekend roster perhaps once or twice in a month as well. And I have another volunteering role at the Bluebell Railway, which is non-signalling related.
So today I'm the station master here at Horster Canes. So this is the uniform for the Southern Railway from the 1935 period, as they would have dressed back at that time.
Yeah, so we heard earlier on that each of the stations is in a different time period. So this is obviously set in, is it the 1930s you were just saying? So would every other station master be in a different uniform then?
Yes, so each of the stations different period, as you say. So the Sheffield Park is 1880s, 1890s. So the station master there is more in a sort of frock coat style. Then here at Horster Canes we're 1930s. Kingscote is the 1950s, so it's a similar uniform, except instead of the lapels being SR for Southern Railway, you'll have the sort of British Railways, and then East Grinstead is 1960s, which again is a later British Railways. So there's a different theme and sort of different style for each of the stations and a different uniform, but effectively all the uniforms are black in colour. Then with that sort of white shirt, but you've got different colour ties for different periods.
So ladies, you both volunteer on the Bluebell Railway. What do each of you do here?
Well, I have 4 roles. I'm a booking office clerk. I work on the platform at Kingscote as well as a porter. I'm a travelling ticket inspector, TTI is what we call it. And also I do the Santa Special trains as a steward.
Oh, right.
So I like a bit of variety.
A lot of different jobs there. And what do you do, Jane?
I work in the booking office up at East Grinstead, and I also help with the Santa Specials, but mostly on the platform.
Chaz mentioned that he undertakes other voluntary work here at the Bluebell Railway, and I was eager to hear more about it.
I lead a small group called the Friends of Sheffield Park, who actually do maintenance and building work and generally look after the fabric and everything in and around Sheffield Park Station. So we paint, we clean, we decorate internally, we repair minor things that need fixing on a weekly basis, and we meet here every Wednesday, 50 weeks of the year. So that's another day that I spend at the Bluebell Railway.
Is there a group of people that do that for each one of the stations going along?
Yes, there is, and you know, some of us are more active than others. We founded the Friends of Sheffield Park group probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and since that time we've been constantly active. A very enthusiastic group. We normally have 8 or 10 people a week come along, and we assign tasks for them to do. And really the whole presentation of this station is down to the efforts of that group.
It's got the sort of the steam bug at a very young age. Came down here for my 2nd birthday, and since then always wanted to volunteer on the railway. As soon as I finished GCSEs, when I was age 15, I decided to come down and help on the railway and just never left.
Have you done a lot of other volunteering jobs at the Bluebell Railway? Because obviously there seems to be quite a varied range of jobs that you can do. There is.
I do quite a few different roles. As you see me today as a station master here at Horster Canes. I also do booking office, so selling tickets. I'm also a signalman here at the station. I do a lot of the commercial side, so as a railway we need to advertise the railway to the public to bring more passengers in. So we have a publicity stand that goes out to big county shows, tourism fairs, wedding fairs, different events. So I'm involved with that. Also involved with the publications. I used to be on our editorial team for our Society magazine. I also work on the fish and chip trains.
Wow.
We do that sort of 12 times a year in the evening, so part of that team. Also, Wilden Rambler, we do an afternoon tea service on the train, so involved with that, which is for now 11 years since day one. Work on the Pullman, so a rail train, so there's a huge different variety. I'm always got a different hat on, such for all different roles.
Do you remember your first days at the Bluebell Railway?
Well, I first started on the platform at Kingscote, which at that time was a terminus, so it was really nice to mix with all the passengers that came off and talk to them. I remember that very much on my first sort of days. Of course, it's no longer a terminus, so it's a bit
a little bit different now. definitely. Do you remember your first day, Jen?
Yes, I remember walking in and Leslie was there and she did my first stage training and I was thinking, oh, thank goodness, I was frightened that there was going to be somebody might be a bit stern, but there was Leslie and she was smiling.
Oh, that's
and she
good
was
then.
very patient.
Probably some departments attract more younger people than others. There's
Yeah.
inevitably great enthusiasm in the locomotive department, you know, and what
Yeah,
kid
there's-
doesn't want to be an engine driver?
Anybody that's thinking of, sort of on the edge of volunteering or thinking about it, what would you say to them?
We'll give it a go.
Yeah, just do it.
Why not?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't
Trying
like
it. If you don't like where you start, then potentially there's something else you can move into. I started as station staff before I came down to the loco and workshops. And it was good, don't get me wrong, very enjoyable.
Didn't like it as much.
But then I always watched the engines come in at Kingscote at the other end of the line, and I was just like, yeah, I want to be on the engines.
So anyone thinking about, say if someone wants to volunteer and they're thinking of the Bluebell Railway, how would you get them to volunteer? What would you say to them?
So there is such a variety that depending on what you want to do, it's not just locomotives, there's the carriages, there's the signalling, there's the stations, the buffet cars, there's so many different things.
Yeah.
First thing to do is always become a member of the railway. We have a Bluebell Railway Preservation Society.
Yeah.
So you need to become a member first of all. From that, we then do a monthly Find Out More Day, which is on the second Sunday of each month. And you can come down and actually go round a lot of the departments, see what's involved, and from that you can decide what you want to do.
How important do you think volunteers are to the Bluebell Railway?
Immensely. If we didn't have volunteers, the railway wouldn't be here. They provide the backbone to the railway.
This is a safety critical role, so it's important that we only entertain people for training whom we judge to have the right level of background, understanding, skill, shall we say, intellectual capacity or drive, not to denigrate anybody, but it requires a certain level of understanding to embrace all of this. So we do have prerequisites. So I was talking about the Volunteer Awareness Day.
Yeah.
You can't, unfortunately, go straight from coming in on the Volunteer Awareness Day and straight into signalling.
Yeah.
We would require you to do something else at the railway which would prove your worth in terms
Prove
of
that you're serious
being a
about
reliable volunteer, that you come regularly, that you do what you say you're going to do, that you basically exhibit sort of common sense behaviour around moving trains, things like that. So, for example, we accept people who've reached the qualification of leading porter on a platform.
Yeah.
We'll also accept people who are passed in other safety critical roles normally, such as a guard or someone who's qualified on the locomotive.
Yeah.
But after that, you have to go through a classroom training process.
Okay.
So we do 3 full days in the classroom when we talk about signalling theory and some of the rules and regulations, but only really a basic grounding. And that's all tested with written test papers and so on. And if the candidates are successful in passing that, then they go into a practical training phase.
Yeah.
We normally start trainees at Kingscote.
Yeah.
And they will be rostered with an experienced regular signalman
Yeah.
over as long as it takes, really,
For them to be confident
for them
enough
to
to
become
do it.
competent and demonstrably competent. And then when we in the inspectorate judge that they're ready, we will subject them to a formal assessment day where they will be in sole charge of the signal box. We will observe them in their natural work performance.
Yeah.
We may set some special tests for them, and we will ask them a great many questions about the rules and regulations. And if they pass all of that, then they will get their grade card to be a signalman and their first box key, which will be to the box they're training at.
Yeah.
And so it goes on.
A lot of the people that we've spoken to that volunteer here, it seems like a massive part of it is the people that you actually volunteer with.
Yes, I think that's true. And everyone is very, very supportive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Well, you make a mistake and it can be put right. You never get anyone sort of condemning you or complaining.
Yeah.
That's really good sort of camaraderie, really, isn't it?
And there's always, at my level, there's always somebody to ask.
Yeah.
And even if they're not on the station with you, there's always somebody at the end of a phone who can give you advice as to what to do.
What would you say is your favourite thing about working here at the Bluebell Railway?
It's a variety. Every day is different, and also talking to people, working with different people. There's never 2 days the same.
Before leaving the station and signal box, I was really keen to find out a little more background about the signalling at Sheffield Park. I asked Chaz to give me a brief overview of the system. Right, so I noticed there's different levers on here, like some longer ones and some shorter ones. What's the difference between those?
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite straightforward. All the levers with full-length handles are connected to the outdoor equipment mechanically. So the signals are worked by steel cables that run on pulleys alongside the track. And when I pull the lever, I actually pull that cable and raise a counterweight at the signal and operate the signal. So I'm using my strength to operate the equipment. When I replace the lever, the counterweight at the signal pulls the cable back and restores the signal to its normal position. The levers with shorter handles are electric controls. So all the levers are in the frame because they're interlocked mechanically together. So the levers still have to be used to operate the equipment. But when I operate the lever, all it's doing is changing some contacts under the floor here, which send electrical signals to the outdoor equipment. So that means that there is no effort required at all. The only amount of effort is just to simply move the weight of the lever from backwards and forwards, and the equipment's worked electrically. So that saves my strength. So actually all of the levers here are relatively easy to work. Sheffield Park signalman. 7B, reversing. Thank you.
So this is the mechanical.
No, number 7 is electric because it's got, so they're doing some maintenance. So they've asked me to reverse these points. So this is a heavy set of points, but actually this lever is just an electric switch. So there's no effort required at all.
Control.
But there's a repeater here which tells me the position of the points. And
if they're in the
make sure they're in
reverse.
corresponding position. So when the lever's out the frame like this, we say it's reversed, and the points are in the reverse position. So they're in correspondence.
We did move this back now, which we're not going to do.
No, we're not.
It would go back to normal.
It would, but it would pause in the middle. When it says wrong, it's neither normal nor reverse.
Okay.
Because it takes a certain amount of time for the points to unlock, to move across, and then to lock again. And when all that's completed and proved complete, and the points are secure, then I'll get a normal indication. If I don't get a normal or reverse indication, then the levers for the signals that I would need to move a train past those points won't work. They'll be locked. So it's interlocked for safety.
I noticed that if you've got a block on number 6.
Ah, yes.
What does that do, apart from obviously blocking?
Well, this is just, it's actually literally a block of wood, but it's shaped to fit over the top of the lever and behind the catch handle. So when I put that in place, I can't actually lift the catch to move the lever. So it's officially called a signalman's reminder appliance.
Okay.
And it does exactly that. So if there's any reason at all I need to remind myself of something, for example, not to operate number 6, if I slip one of those over, even if I forget or I get distracted by an interviewer, for example, and I'm distracted and I go to pull 6, and it just makes me stop and think for a moment.
Definitely. I enjoyed seeing the difference between an older signal box compared to the newer signal boxes I've delivered projects at. It was so good to meet Chaz, who is so passionate and knowledgeable about the voluntary work that he does. I have a couple more volunteering jobs to try out before I leave. Join me next time when I get behind the controls of one of the Heritage Line's locomotives and also have a go at being a fireman.